You're listening to the Ballet Piano Podcast, lifting the lid on dance accompaniment.
Hello, podcast fans, and welcome back to our latest episode of the Ballet Piano Podcast. I am Chris Hobson, I think, and to my left is my beautiful wife, Akiko Hobson.
Hello.
David Yao.
Hello.
And opposite is Matt Gregory. Hello.
Hello, listeners.
How are we all?
Great. Yeah, good.
I still don't understand why Matt has to wear scarf on the t-shirt.
Just being a lush.
It's artistic.
It's keeping me cozy.
This is when like off-air goes, pre-record comes into recorded, yeah? You're showing that you're peeking, letting listeners peek behind the scenes.
Like I just can't decide whether he's hot or he's cold.
I don't know, check out the Instagram. We'll stick a photograph on it. It does look artistic.
I'm taking it off.
Oh. Well, hey. So here we are again. This episode, it's a bit of a unique one because we received an email from Janet Park of Ballet Memphis a while ago now, and it was asking about different ways of counting and understanding upbeats and things with dancers. So this episode, it probably doesn't fully answer your questions and comments that you sent us, Janet, because we've gone off on a little tangent with it, and we're going to call it musical trickery. So we're going to talk about how we count things with upbeats and where the melody starts. And actually, a really good example that she sent us was the Gavotte in D major by J.S. Bach. Now, if I press the right button, hopefully on the recording desk, it should play for us.
Kiko just made a face.
I know she did, and before anybody throws shade at me, I recorded that at about 8:15 with no coffee.
Did you play?
Yes.
Marvelous playing.
Oh, just bore off. Go give birth.
Not yet.
Right, not yet. No. Still got some. We can't afford it yet. So, on the paper, it starts on beats 3 and 4. So it's in 4/4 Allegro. That was slightly slower than Allegro, I know, before you tell me, Akiko. But this is, in theory, how you would count it if you're going off the music. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc., etc. David, as a dancer, is that how you'd count that?
No. Well, I was just nodding my head there to the rhythm, and that's where we get the difference between dancers' counts and musicians' counts. Because we'd start straight away 1, 2, and 3, 4, because it's easier for us to hear that downbeat.
I mean, this is not just specific to Bach or to a Gavotte. And we were talking just before we pressed the record button about the Nutcracker, and you've got, I don't know how it's referred to, say, like in the BRB production, David, that you used to do, but for where I was, we call it the clap dance. You go 1 and a 2 and a 1, yum ba bum ba da ba da dun, which starts on the upbeat again. So it's 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1. There we go, singing. I did all of my vocal warm-ups today. And there's a whole plethora of these things, isn't there? Especially in a lot of it, especially in Tchaikovsky. There's loads of it in virtually every single ballet. You've got this how it starts. So Janet's question first off was, how do we educate dancers to think that this is the third beat of the phrase of the bar, not the first beat? Matt and I were chatting, and it's like, I don't actually know how important that is, because Akiko, you've played this piece for years.
I knew this piece from somewhere, or maybe I played as a child, I don't remember. But I didn't remember how it's written on the score at all. And I just thought, I played in the ballet class sometimes, because it's fit with the exercise. But I had no memory of how it's written. So I just thought it was starting on the count number 1. So I would just play a 4-count introduction and then start on the 1. And I just believed that's the correct way, and I never doubted. So I was very shocked when Chris showed me the actual score and it's written on the count 3.
Oh, for any listeners, by the way, go to our website for this at www.balletpianopodcast.com, and the latest episode, if you go to the page on there, we've actually uploaded the score on there so you can have a look and see what we're going to be talking about when we delve a little bit further in to this. So, Akiko, you think it goes like this, or you thought until today it went, let's see if I can time this right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2,
Yes.
3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc.
We're all nodding in agreement, aren't
I think we all nod in agreement.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to take a little break, and then when we come back, we're going to do something that's going to absolutely blow your mind.
You can follow the podcast team by visiting the social media channels. Search for Ballet Piano Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for up-to-date information and content about the podcast.
So this is where the musical trickery comes in. This is what we do for a job. And most ballet pianists who are listening to this are going to be nodding in agreement now of how you, I mean, we've talked in previous episodes about arranging your own ballet class repertoire, about how you cut off the end of a phrase, or you have to make 9 bars into 8 bars and things like that. We've all discussed that. But it's almost changing where the bar lines are.
Yeah, and I think that's what when you count 3 as count 1, you are moving the bar line, aren't you? Which is what you do when you play it, Akiko.
So
without
Sometimes without
realizing.
noticing.
without realizing.
noticing.
So here we go. So this is going to be a 4-bar introduction, 4-count introduction, let's say, and then the melody will start on beat 1, hopefully. 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 5 and a 6 and a 7 and an 8.
You can hear that meter really clearly in there as well, can't you?
I mean, for this particular piece, I think this is more natural than counting on number 3.
yeah.
If you were going to do it properly musically, the way it's written,
Yeah.
how would an introduction sound before?
Here he is. There's a reason why David's here. Let me try this, David. Let's see how we go. 2 and 3. 1 and 2.
So you'd put that upbeat in the introduction.
You put the
wouldn't
upbeat in the introduction. So as Matt and I were planning this, and we were talking earlier, we were using the example of a tondu, which, if we think back to episode 3, I think it was, the Ballet Piano Podcast, which was released on the 28th of February 2020. So nearly 2 years ago, or just over 2 years ago, depending on when you're listening to this. We know that tondus can go either out on the beat, it goes, or out on the upbeat. So both of these ways of playing this are going to be appropriate. So if you go 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, tondu in, would be musically technically the wrong way of doing it, but the way Akiko's done it for years. Love you. Like this. 2 and 3 and 4. Out.
Out, in.
I'm completely confused myself. We're going out on the
Out
and,
on the
aren't
and,
we?
out
Out
on
on the
the
and, which
and.
would be the correct way of doing it. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button on the desk. Let's try that again. Here we go. 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Out, in, out, in, out, in. Or you can go out on the beat, which would be the way that Akiko's done it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm such an idiot. I'm so sorry. Here we go. 3 and 4. Out, in and out and in. So
I
with
think
that,
that's more natural.
yeah, I like both.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you want.
It depends on the
Yeah.
choreography.
Yeah.
But if you're able to do things like that with all these things, which, all these melodies which start either on the upbeat, on beat 3, or then you can basically double what you can use them for in your mental list, in your mental tick cards, can't you? So that piece of music will work for both sets of accents for the tondu.
And I think if a ballet pianist is picking up that music and they want to make it work for ballet, I think it's probably advisable to just ignore the bar lines for the purpose of a ballet class to find the strong beats.
Yes.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Even if it's on count
Yeah.
3 in the music, you make that count 1.
It doesn't.
Because it has to be obvious to the dancers to catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be helpful for them, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
But for an advanced student, that's really clever that you
Ah.
use both.
yeah.
That you'd actually maybe start the week doing the simpler version, and by the end of the week, you had have changed so that it sounds different and it feels different, because you have to prepare in your mind and your body completely different.
I might get confused now.
Yeah.
I'm playing for assessments with David Yao as we record this, and I can see this is going to be creeping into my weeks as we go
Switch something
along.
on
now.
there at the
Yeah,
back of my
David's eyes just lit up. He's like, ha ha, here we go. Doesn't always work for everything though, does it? I don't think. Like if you take into account maybe, I don't know, other gavottes here. 1, 2, the famous gavotte from, is it Act 1 of Romeo and Juliet? Ya da 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 yum bam 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 bam. You know where the strong beat is that ba 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 ya da 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 da. That's obvious. You know you can't alter the bar lines with something like that because it's going to be the most unnatural thing in the world.
Yeah.
Even singing it sounds wrong. It feels wrong. But it's different ways of looking at music as well. I was speaking with a ballet teacher recently who was saying like, oh, I'd like to look at the score for some solos so I can better understand it. I was like, looking at the score is not going to help you because for starters, you count it in 3/4 and it's written in 6/8.
Yeah.
It's like, it's gonna pose more questions than it's going to solve. I was like, sort of thinking, is it not better to physicalize that?
Maybe it's better to go with how it sounds as opposed to how it looks on the page for things like this, where we're thinking, okay, we'll move the bar lines to make it work for dancers. If you sort of ignore the bar lines and sort of play it, find out where the strong beats are, that becomes your 1, 2, 3, 4.
But so one of the tune that I was talking to Chris the other day is that Coppelia, one of the variation. For us musicians, I think it makes sense that this dun dun da da dum bum bum ba da dum. So for us as a musician, it's and 1 and 2 and 3. And once ages ago, one of the teacher who is quite musical, she said the exercise starting on dun dun da da dun. So she obviously counted dun dun bit as 1.
Yes.
But I didn't catch that, so
you made
did
it part
introduction,
of the
but that bit was the
before.
upbeat.
Yeah.
And then they got completely confused. Now I got confused why they're starting early.
Yeah.
And something like this, like, they've been believing that naturally that tan beat is the 1. But we as a musician, tan beat is upbeat. So...
But does that come down to choreography as well and things like that and stuff that you've experienced when you've been dancing?
Yeah.
Like for some of the Nutcrackers, you would not know that it was on the upbeat because it sounds like it's on the downbeat.
For a dancer, you're always looking for the tune.
Yeah.
To be honest. So it gets more complicated when you can't. It gets more, and you have to really think about what you're saying, the musical time signature and where you're counting the bars and everything. But normally, a dancer will always think about where's the tune.
Yeah.
And so for something like this, if it's in a variation class or an assessment or something, do you think this is a little conversation that is had before you're going to the studio?
Definitely.
I've got this piece of music. Oh, I've got this choreography and I want to use this piece of music. Do you think before you go in front of the dancers, is that a pianist and a teacher thing to just have that?
If you want to do something complicated like that,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to make a feature of it, then yes, of course, because then you're involving everybody in at different stages. But you need your musician from the very beginning, so that they can demonstrate what you're trying to get across to the students. If you're trying to say, sometimes music is more complicated than just 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, and you're going to have time tempo changes or possibly even time signature changes as well.
In the middle, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? It opens up a whole myriad of conversations and things like that. It's like I was playing for a different set of assessments. This was a couple of years ago. I can't remember the year. I can't really remember the teacher. Well, I can, but I won't name him. He was called Juan. And he said, it's like, he was on a Coppelia thing. He's like, I want to start off, yum, ba da dun 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 dun. I mean, we squared it up a little bit for the tondu, and then it went into the quicker section, dun 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 dun, which was then, I think it went into jetés, and then it got to the last 16 bars, which you wanted double, and then even quicker for the glisses or the jetés, whichever we hadn't done by then. So then it becomes choreographic. I think with stuff like that, it's important. You've got to do that before. You've got to plan it for. Like saying, playing for David for the assessments. I went in last. It was like, David, I'm playing for you. Let's do Blue Rondo a la Turk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. In my head, it was going to be fantastic.
You said that to
No.
David.
I said that to David in the staff room. He looked at me and said no.
My eyes went on saucer vision.
You were so polite. Listen, it sounds quite complicated.
And then I like to sometimes like dancers counting like so like Napoli tarantella. So that's also start on the count number 4. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
But dancers always go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, dun 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 dun. And we do get used to it, don't we?
Yeah, you got to go with what feels natural. But when you're new and people start shouting beat 1 at you when it's count 2 or something, that can be really confusing in a rehearsal.
Yeah.
Or even playing in a class. If you know what it, you know where it is musically on the score.
Sometimes you just try not to listen how they count so that you can just play.
The first Nutcracker call, the example I said earlier, yum da dun da 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 dum, was the then ballet mistress shouting in her very loud American voice, and it's quite high pitched as well. You know what I mean, don't you, David? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. I said, oh god, it was a bit like trying to rub your stomach and pat your head.
The Nutcracker, the rats.
Oh yes.
That I don't like. I just try not to listen to the accounting because I get confused on the score. So I just keep playing.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1,
It's just
2,
so
3,
confusing.
4, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, when somebody used to come in and teach our students that.
Yeah, it's a mystery for me how they
is.
count.
But it's good. On that note, I think we should stop before we say something we shouldn't. And we end up,
Agreed.
somebody takes action against us or we get a cease and a desist. But that's so musical trickery. That's it. Don't always take. I think the lesson from this that certainly Matt and I learned today was don't always take everything as gospel from the sheet music.
Yeah. And I think in going into a ballet studio, I think just having that conversation between the teacher and the pianist, that way when you go in front of dancers, you're more on the same page than you were before you had a conversation about it, and then you can educate the dancers or help them to count it in a certain way.
Definitely. Well, on that note, it's going to be goodbye from me.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.